if people on TikTok are saying like, oh, I'm autistic, oh, I have Tourette's, and they're doing it for like attention, like obviously that's stupid, and I don't think anyone should do that. But if that's kind of the price we pay for better awareness of mental health, then I can deal with that.
Welcome back to the Discourse Debrief, everybody. My name is Peyton.
I'm Logan.
I'm Abby.
And then we have a guest with us that we will introduce in just a moment. Today is our fourth episode, I believe.
Yep, fourth
and
episode.
It is Abby's topic, but it has been the moment. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a junior here at the U of A, and I'm studying medicine with an emphasis in integrated practice focused medicine and a minor in biochemistry.
Cool.
Alrighty,
Wow.
Well, Abby, take it away.
Yeah, so I really wanted Elizabeth to be here for this podcast because we are talking about the future of health, or just health in general as we know it. So I want to start, health is kind of a broad topic, so I think it would be cool if we could break into little subtopics that we each want to talk about regarding the future of health. But for right now, I kind of want to ground the conversation and ask all of you, as a college student, what resources are available to you on campus? What resources do you like? What resources have you used as much as you're comfortable with saying? So, does anybody want to go first?
I'll go first because my answer is not interesting. I obviously have a lot of resources available to me, but I don't use any, and I haven't used any because I haven't had to yet. Hopefully I don't have to.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, there's a lot of obviously available resources to me. I just have not had to use them yet. So
Bro's locked in.
I am.
Yeah, bro doesn't get sick.
Bro doesn't get sick
Well-
or mentally ill like me.
Or I just deal with it.
Good segue. I take advantage of a few of the resources, namely the CAP Center. I've had counseling there. I have my psychiatrist is there. I've done like a nutritional evaluation, all sorts of things, and it's all largely inclusive with what's it called, your tuition, and if you have insurance. It's been very helpful for me. It's how I get my Vyvanse. But yeah, and I know there are tons of other resources that I just haven't needed to take advantage of, but I've definitely been utilizing the ones that are very applicable to me.
Yeah. I think one that's really important to me and a lot of women on the campus is the Women's Health Center. I think last year they give out Plan Bs every Friday. Is that what you said? They give out Plan Bs. They offer a lot of contraceptive methods, information, and yeah, I think they also give out free pregnancy tests as well. So, yeah, it's a really important, important program center to use and utilize. So
No, I love the women's clinic. I've gone there a few times, and everyone's been really sweet.
yeah,
And I also love, I don't currently have it, but the plan that U of A offers where you pay at the beginning of the year, and it includes getting any kind of test you need done, any kind of screenings, everything, and you just pay a $20 copay every time you go.
Wow.
And everyone at Campus Health is always super sweet, super nice. And then we have this, we have so many pharmacies. We have the CVS right down University that's not far from campus. And everyone there is really nice. And no, Campus Health is such a good resource just because they know when you walk in that you're like, oh, I actually don't really know all of my
Yeah.
information.
Well-
and like, here's the picture of my insurance stuff. What do I do?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, the people at these centers, are they all student workers? Because you mentioned they're all really nice people. Are they mostly students?
Yes and no. The people doing your intake and outtake, they're not normally students, but they do have student assistants always
Okay.
walking around, and I'll recognize people that I see in my classes. I'm not really sure specifically what they're doing because I know that there's different volunteering positions
Sure.
at Campus
Okay.
Health. Yeah.
yeah. Especially the Women's Center. I know they offer volunteers, student volunteers, but I think you either have to be majoring in a topic related to health or something like that. But yeah, every time I've gone, they've been really great, and yeah, they're people that seem in similar age range to me. Unless I'm seeing a professional, then it's definitely a doctor.
Then
or
they're
something like
close
that.
to age to Peyton.
Correct.
Bruh. I've achieved UNC status apparently.
No, I'm just kidding. They're probably closer to the age of my parents, I'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe a little younger.
I've seen both. I've seen this very sweet lady who makes me just feel like she's a little grandma. And then I've seen a girl that's fresher, out of
Yeah.
med school, probably late 20s, early 30s, not really sure.
Yeah,
You're
that
pushing 30.
I'm not pushing 30, bro. I was born in 03, okay?
Yeah, but those are all very great resources that we have here at the U of A. And I think it's really important to have those resources, especially in a university that is so large and kind of a party school.
Kind of.
Kind of a party school. We kind of are a party school. But yeah, people get sick all the time. And I think it's really important. I feel like I had 5 people coughing in my class this morning, and now I'm scared I'm going to catch something. But it's nice to know that campus health is always available for us when we need it. Yeah.
No,
Awesome.
I even know of a girl where she legitimately thought that she had a stroke, and she
Jesus.
went to campus health, and they were like, "We're gonna have you go to the ER." But
Yeah.
that resource just being there, because when you're just like, "Am I freaking out, or am I actually going through something?" At least like campus health is.
And the internet tells you have cancer.
Right, you just look something up and it's like you're actually terminal, and you're like, I
You're
just
actually
stubbed my
dead.
toe. I don't really know what's going on, but it's good that you have a place where you can go, and then they can be like, you actually need to go somewhere higher up, or they're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're okay, you're good.
No, I totally agree. I think it's super important. And I wanted to ask you, Elizabeth, since you are studying medicine, what is your hope for the future of health in general, or like you as a student? Like, what do you hope to do with this degree? What do you hope changes?
So specifically with my degree, I want to be a pediatrician, and my whole goal is I really want to make the doctor's office a better place for kids, because no kid wants to go to the doctor. They're like, no, I'm scared. It's always like a screaming battle. Like whenever people get shots and they're like, oh yeah, I had to have like 4 nurses hold me down.
Jesus.
And I'm like,
That was me.
that's
not
like, that's a lot. Like I hated shots and I would cry, but I would also be squeezing my arm so bad, and no one ever told me until I was like 12 that they were like, it hurts more if your arm is tense because we're fighting your arm.
My parents always bribed me with milkshakes if I didn't scream. Shout out mom and dad. So
No.
that's how I did not scream.
Hey, we hated shots as kids, but we love shots now.
And that's on God.
No, but just having it to be that open and friendly environment is really what I want it to be. And I hope for the future of healthcare that with campus health that either it stays the same or it even gets more accessible.
Yes.
Just seeing more access and people being able to go to these places, that's really what I want to see. Is I just want everyone to be able to, when they need to, have the opportunity to go to the doctor.
Yeah, and that's great. I definitely think that is something that we should strive for as a community, especially in health. It always should be a place where you're comfortable to go and you have access to things. And speaking about access, something that is very important to me, a topic that I think is important, is access to abortion, access to safe abortions. I think that currently with state bans on abortion, people are not able to access the safe abortions and healthcare that they need. And I think that's honestly really dangerous for our society and community if women can't get the healthcare that they need and have, in my opinion, the right to have. So, anybody else have any opinions on that?
Yeah, we talked about this in one of our first semester videos, and my position, I don't know how much it's changed, I haven't thought about it a lot, is I think you can be anti-abortion and still be pro-choice. So I think you can say like, hey, I don't agree with abortion, but I'm not going to place that value on you. So I think that's kind of where, from a policy standpoint, a lot of it stems from religion and like moral values towards abortion. So obviously we try to kind of separate health and science from religion. Obviously it's hard and difficult to do and no one wants to do it. But I think as far as access, the recent sort of outlawing from states has actually made the problem worse, because now you have women that need abortions and they travel across state lines, and that's just more dangerous. So you're ending up with probably more traumatic experiences, more deaths even.
Well, yeah, and you have women that can't afford to travel or don't have a car, don't have access to transportation, and can't get these necessary procedures, especially if it's hurting their health specifically.
Yeah, and then they resort to unsafe or dangerous methods.
Mm-hmm. I think just access in general is a good topic to talk about. Having access to safe healthcare is so important in this country, because like so many problems can be caused by trying methods that aren't like approved by a doctor or necessarily safe. So,
and that's really upsetting when the medication used for abortions are U46, I know it starts with a 4, don't know the last 2 numbers. It's one of the safest medications ever. There's never been a death recorded. And the FDA, it was already being used in France for like 30, 40 years before we even started looking into it for like the 10, 20 years that it takes for the FDA to approve medications. And if that medication is so safe, it's so frustrating when people have to resort to those like harmful ways because they don't have a way to do it.
For sure.
When we all should have access to the safest medication ever to be able to help people.
Yeah, and I think that's beyond just abortion. Like that's all kind of healthcare things. So
I think regardless of your political opinion, we should always have access as citizens to safe healthcare.
Well, even regardless of like any like beliefs you hold, like as you mentioned earlier, like the differentiation between like science and religion or science and politics, like science is a very separate, as close to objective as we can get kind of field. And it's when we like start putting our own like beliefs on top of that, that things start getting muddied, people start losing access, and maybe in some cases gaining it. That kind of cultural shift can work in the other way too, but right now, at least in some of these states, we're seeing it result in a restriction of access, which is certainly scary.
Yeah, you see like a lot of people, especially kind of from an environmental standpoint, say like, oh, it's scientism, as if it like the science is like a religion or a belief. So yeah, you're definitely right.
I think it just like perpetuates the idea that more so than any other time, we definitely need that separation of church and state, because that is how America is. That's how it has been written. So I think.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't there. I wasn't in the room where it happened.
I wasn't there either. What did
Apparently
Thomas Jefferson write?
I mean,
apparently you were.
Peyton was there when the
Apparently I was.
Declaration of Independence was written, actually. So.
I was the one who declared independence.
He signed right under John Hancock. He
He-
just couldn't see his signature.
He is
'cause,
actually
you know.
Thomas Paine. I know he's been anonymous for
And
a
this
while.
whole interaction could be a segue into another health topic if you're okay.
Yeah, no, I'm all good for that.
Mental health and mental illness. It's something that's like it's an important topic to me, and I imagine a lot of people our age and hell, like across the country, across the world, right? I guess just for context, I'll kind of give my experience, and then you guys can give yours if you want. But I like grew up with like nothing diagnosed, just like a kind of traditional smart kid, but wouldn't apply themselves, if you can see where it's going. And then I ended up going through some like depression, but never got a diagnosis for that until I had a very close friend of mine, actually, Alex, who was here in season 2 for our socialism episode, who I empathize with very heavily. Never expected him to have ADHD, but he comes to me and says, I got an ADHD diagnosis. And I'm like, the hell? I was expecting like bouncy all over the place. You're very calm still. But I felt so similar to him and like his thought processes that I went in for an evaluation at the U of A through CAPS, and lo and behold, ADHD. And I was retroactively diagnosed with major depressive disorder in remission. And, this idea of like ADHD, of what a diagnosis means, I mean, we've kind of psychologized a lot of our culture and like health. So I guess maybe just to kind of open the conversation up, what do you guys make of that kind of phenomenon of like using psychological terminology to like kind of describe how we are, or like how do you feel about diagnoses, that kind of thing?
I guess are you saying like kind of like the stigma that surrounds mental illness, or something deeper than that?
We could talk about that, but I'm more so getting to like on TikTok, it's like I have this ADHD trait where I like do X, Y, or Z thing that like it just isn't traditionally related with ADHD.
Yeah.
Lots of misinformation, lots of like therapy talk in like self-help, even though it's not backed by like a psychiatrist or whatever, that kind of phenomenon.
I mean, I guess at that point, I think I'd prefer that to the opposite of like we just don't really care about mental health at all. If people on TikTok are saying like, oh, I'm autistic, oh, I have Tourette's, and they're doing it for like attention, like obviously that's stupid, and I don't think anyone should do that. But if that's kind of the price we pay for better awareness of mental health, then I can deal with that.
Yeah, so I kind of see both ends, where it's like you have obviously a lot more knowledge about mental health, and that people on social media are kind of erasing the stigma around, getting diagnosed for X, Y, and Z. But I also see the other end where it's like the misinformation, where people are kind of like perpetuating an idea of what this specific mental health disorder is supposed to look like in people. And I think that's really dangerous, because I think it looks differently in everybody. And so if you're on TikTok and you're on social media and you're scrolling and you're like, oh, well, I don't have ADHD according to this person, you don't really know unless you go get tested if you have concerns for that.
Well, kind of your first point, like this whole stigma, the same goes for therapy. I remember this post that I think applies quite well. It was like a dialogue, and it was like a boomer saying, that girl goes to therapy. And then it's a millennial saying, y'all, my therapist said this today. And it's just like, it's so true how therapy used to be this sort of demonized thing that like you are just not a human anymore. And now we've reached a point where like it is normal to go seek help, and it is encouraged to find resources that help you through life. So
well, even to like build upon that, like with my ADHD, right? Mine is inattentive, not hyperactive. There are like 3 categories. There's hyperactive, where you're like crazy moving all the time. Inattentive, where I just like can't focus. And then there's a mix of both. Mine is inattentive, but it just manifested as me just being very lazy is how it looked. And it's what I believed for the longest time. And it's what my family believed for the longest time is, oh, you're just lazy, put in the will, find your willpower, that kind of thing. And I was very kind of apprehensive, even like exploring ADHD, because I'd had it reinforced my whole life, like I'm just lazy. I just need to lock in. It's that easy. And that correlates with a weird phenomenon of both an under and over diagnosis of ADHD that we've seen in the past like decade or so. On one hand, like there is more like ADHD diagnoses that don't actually correspond with like DSM-5 or whatever. But then we're also missing a lot, and like people who have learned to cope with their symptoms early, kind of like I did, although it was maladjusted because I failed some of my classes and whatnot. But there's definitely a very weird stigma of mental health depending on which generation or what even like culture you're in,
Yeah.
I wanted to go back and touch on the point where we were talking about seeing it on social media. I have had so many people my entire life, all of my friends, come up to me and always be like, Elizabeth, do you have ADHD? And I was always like, no, why do you guys ask this? Because I knew like the normal kind of stereotypical signs, like shaking, always getting up during class, talking a lot, just being really just like hyper and everything. And I'm a hyper bubbly person. But what I would go through is I would go through almost mini like panic attacks. I didn't want to get up in class because I was too nervous about people just staring at me and noticing me. And I would just get so stressed out about everything that I was just giving myself mini like crying panic attacks, the really like huffy cries. And then it wasn't until I was sitting in therapy last December where my therapist was like, Elizabeth, I think you need to go get tested for ADHD. And she also told me, she was like, I also want you to look on social media and look up kind of more of the hidden ADHD kind of like traits that people have, because it's always diagnosed harder in girls, women for some reason. And something that I feel like that I didn't know is I didn't know what of my symptoms were ADHD and what were just me. Because also, if no one told me for the longest time what it was or what I was going through, so I was just like, wow, I'm really stressed out all the time. Like I need to calm down.
Do you think that stems from like people's preconceived notions about what a lot of these illnesses are? So like for both of you, like someone might think, oh, if you're ADHD, you're just bouncing off the walls. Oh, if you're depressed, you're just like sad all the time. Do you think that's where a lot of it stems from, like from a social media standpoint?
I really think a big part of it stems from there, because even if you just think about it, like teachers have always been seen as kind of like the main people to like push for like the ADHD treatment, because they're the ones that usually notice it first.
And deal with it.
All of my teachers were just like, oh, like a joy to have, because I wasn't ever showing any of those normal signs. Like I wasn't ever just getting up through class. So I feel like if people don't know it, just like with the ADHD traits, they're not going to notice it. If I'm sad, but like I'm not showing you that I'm really sad, no one's really going to notice it or kind of like make a point to do it. And it isn't until like I do love it how like on like TikTok, say, like they're like, I'll watch a video and it's like, hey, do you guys know when it's like you'll be completely fine and completely happy talking to people, but the second they leave, you just feel like shit. And it's like, yeah. And then you kind of like read the comments, go through a little rabbit hole, and then you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, maybe I need to like talk to someone about this specifically, because you know you don't really think it's an issue, and then no one wants to be the person that's like talking to someone, and they're like, no, I think you're just overreacting.
Yeah, so kind of going off that point, I guess I want to ask all of you, do you think that social media and the development of technology will like help or hurt mental health stigma, access, diagnoses in the future?
Both. And we're already seeing it. Like on one hand, like the increased exposure to, you know, these sorts of things, kind of validating your own experiences. That's very helpful for, you know, raising the awareness, I guess, getting treatments available or whatnot. But I think there's also potential for hindrance as we see almost maybe an overuse of that. Like the reason why I brought up like the use of psychological language like in our culture is on one hand, again, bringing awareness to like the fact that something might be wrong. There are things we can do, but it can also result in kind of hasty generalizations where we don't go to like therapy ourselves, or we don't see a psychiatrist ourselves and just kind of do like our own internet diagnoses. Like I know I've done for like whether or not I thought I was going to die the next day because I was coughing so much, but nonetheless, like on one hand, yes, like exposure, but on the other hand, like we might be muddying the waters of like what science is actually telling us about the likes of mental health struggles.
I agree. Like for all the awareness that's being brought, I think it can also create a sort of rebound effect, like especially in policy. Like for example, we are sort of having a regression to the idea of like, oh, just man up, you know, you're fine, you're going to be fine, you don't actually have any problems. So it has a reverse effect. However, I do think it has been a net positive so far.
Yeah. I agree.
I would disagree a little bit. I think social media, yes, reduces like the stigma of surrounding mental health and, you know, actually going to treat yourself for these concerns. But then also I know me personally, around 2020 when it was locked down and we had COVID, everyone got on social media and shared how they were feeling, and a lot of people were depressed and a lot of people were anxious, and I think that also made me feel depressed and anxious because I was just constantly seeing that, and I was also relating to it in ways that I was like, I don't like the lockdown, I want to have human connection. But then I think that just like being on social media, and especially now with politics, it's making me feel depressed, and it's making me feel a little bit hopeless about our society in general, just because I'm like inundated with so much of that negativity on social media.
I think it's definitely a double-edged sword. Is like social media brings more awareness, but it also brings more causes of like feelings of hopelessness. So I think I agree.
And that is like, I agree with both of your points, because that is also the bad part of it. Because if you kind of look up like eating disorders or like self-harm on social media, half of the time you'll get ways to do things like that, like really big, like there were big Tumblr posts when Tumblr was really big, and it was like kind of telling people how they can do those things, and that's not good at all.
Right.
But something that I do like about social media is I feel like it brings up awareness about how to get access. Like I could probably recite the BetterHelp like ad because it was on like every podcast, like every influencer, that was their thing.
Yeah.
So like, you know,
Not sponsored, by the way.
Hell no.
it's so popular like that I start to know and can hear all the resources, but I totally understand where you're coming from, where it's like, it's that fine line of where sometimes too much social media about that stuff, it's just like, just puts it down on your day, and it's like, what are you gonna do?
Maybe like a solution is just limiting our access, or like not access
To social media, or
more so like personally being on social media, how much time you're spending on social media. If you're feeling like those really heavy feelings, maybe you should, you know, not be on social media. But then again, I think it also forms kind of and addiction. And addiction was something that I also wanted to talk about on here. Addiction to social media, addiction to substances. I think we've seen a really big increase of like fentanyl overdoses recently, and how it's just people are trying drugs and they're not getting safe drugs. They're getting these like lab grown, I don't know, I don't do drugs. These don't do drugs, kids. But they're getting like these lab grown drugs that have fentanyl in them, and then they're dying, and that's just like a really big epidemic, especially in the USA right now.
So. And the issue with that, I love BetterHelp by the Pima County Drug Prevention that I'm forgetting the name of, but they have such good information about that. But the big part about the stuff with the fentanyl outbreak and all of this stuff is because they're getting it, they know it has in it, but you don't know where the fentanyl is in the thing that you're getting. So if they'll smoke it usually, you know, with their aluminum foil. They'll do that and they don't know how much they're getting. And then the issue is it basically shuts down your body. It makes you breathe. You're supposed to breathe 7 to 12 minutes. No, 7 to 12 breaths in a minute. You know, you breathe quite a bit. You're breathing 2. Your respiratory rate is 2 or 1.
Jesus.
That's not like good.
You can't. You're borderline already almost dead.
He's holding his breath now.
And that's why naloxone's amazing for that. And I do love that like Campus Health will give out naloxone and fentanyl test strips.
I have Narcan in my house.
Narcan, yeah. I think access to Narcan, like everyone should have Narcan now because of the increased drug problem, or at least big institutions and buildings and even like restaurants. I feel
and
like
all the AED things
AED
on campus.
too.
There's a Narcan, a stop the bleeding kit.
I would also advocate to have EpiPens everywhere. I have a peanut allergy, so yeah, you could kill me with a peanut. Please.
Pardon?
Please, nobody try that.
Crazy
that's crazy because like I have to tell people that I have an allergy, but then also that information could kill me if somebody wanted to do that.
Personally, as a Breaking Bad fan, I don't know. Meth seems kind of cool.
I am on
joking.
legally prescribed amphetamines right now. Legally prescribed, okay. That's what Adderall
that's important to add.
But to like bring it back to addiction, right? Like, it's weird given that we've only existed with the internet. Like, we can't really conceive of a time before then. But I wonder, like, how common the phenomenon of addiction has been, like, across, like, the human race. Like, I know that, like, chain smoking cigarettes was, like, a big thing before that got outlawed. We've been drinking for basically our entire history, but maybe trying to ground it to what we know, I guess. Why do you guys think that, like, I would argue probably everybody is susceptible to at least one addiction. Why do you guys think that is? Why do we do that as people?
I mean, I think kind of to your earlier point, like the people who say like, oh, social media is causing you to be addicted to all these drugs, like social media is like the devil or whatever, which I mean, somewhat valid. The amount of people that are addicted to things, I don't think changes. I think just the substance changes. And then what was like the other part of your question? It's like, why do we become addicted?
Yeah.
Dopamine. I mean, that's like, as someone who does not know anything about the brain, that's about all I can offer.
Yeah,
so.
I think what I said on our last podcast about ChatGPT, I think you can get addicted to that. I think it's things that just make your life feel easier, feel lighter.
That's important.
Yeah, or like, again, probably trigger that
Sensation.
dopamine effect in your brain. So I think that those things, you can get addicted to anything with that feeling. Like a lot of people get addicted to ChatGPT. People are addicted to vaping. Not to point any fingers.
People can also get addicted to like exercise too.
Yeah, you can get addicted to exercise, and also like I think eating disorders are also a form of addiction. Like you're addicted to that control. You're able to, control what's going on in your life, and so you try to control your food intake. And I think that all of these things are big factors that play into why we get addicted to things so easily. So I don't know if you have any.
I think it's really just because an addiction can start so easily, like even to my phone. When I get up in the morning, I like have something playing on my phone while I'm getting ready. And I'll try to just like turn it off and set it down. But I like doing it. And I'm like, oh, well, like it's not that bad to do. So why would I kind of stop? And I feel like the issue with addiction is it gets to the point where it's like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then it gets to the point where it's not okay. And it's like, okay, well, do I know to stop or not? Because
by the time you get there, it's substantially harder to stop, right?
Yes.
Right. And especially when it's something bigger like drugs or alcohol, like people can see it a little more, you know? But when it's like your phone or like counting your calories, that gets very addictive, and that gets really addictive really fast. I know a lot of friends, like, I have an Apple Watch, and I love it, and I'm always like, oh, did you close your rings? And I've had people tell me, like, no, I had to get rid of it because I was just looking at my calories the entire time, counting my calories. I needed to close my rings, or it was, like, very detrimental to their mood that day if they didn't do it. It was, like, it was awful. And it's like, that's what it's so hard about, is because everything can be so addictive, and there are people that are more easily can get addicted to stuff a little faster, but it's also like, what are you going to do when it's like your phone and it's not something like very big like drugs or alcohol?
You kind of covered it, but I was going to ask, like, are all addictions necessarily bad? Because you give me a lot of crap for being on my phone all the time, but I think it is good to be connected, especially when like technology is not going away. Like,
says the Redditor.
Well,
yes.
not.
But anyways, are all addictions bad?
I think all addictions are bad.
Not to like argue with you personally, but I think that if you really truly want to be in the moment with a person and have connection, you can't multitask. You can't be on your phone. You can't, unless you're like, that's the activity that you're doing together. You're both on Instagram or whatnot, then that's cool. That's, you're having a human connection, but it's like through social media, like together. But if you're having dinner, when I was growing up, we had a no phones at the table rule just so that we could talk about our day and we could connect as a family instead of being glued to our devices the whole time. So.
I think it really depends, because you have to remember that like the definition, okay, I don't know the specific definition of an addiction, but it's, you need it, you're relying on it, and you can't really function without it. And you can get addicted to a person. Like, you know, there can be times where you're like, I can't do anything without them. Like, I need them, because you know how people will have like that friend that they talk to for mental health and all that stuff. But there'll be issues where it's like, it gets too much and you're just relying on that person to feel better. And that's so harmful to not only your mental health, but also theirs. Because, like, I'm not going to put all my weight on Abby and be like, no, if Abby's not here, like, I'm not going to be okay. Because of what am I going to do? Text Abby every 5 seconds. When are you coming home? I really need you. Like, I need you to get home right now. Like, that's just going to be so much stress and so stressful. It's like, if you break your phone, like say you cracked your phone, you know, you dropped it on the floor leaving here. Yeah, it's going to be stressful because you're like, wood. Oh no, like I kind of need my phone. But it's like, how detrimental is that actually going to be? Because if it's like you're going to have a full-blown breakdown, not the fact of like, I have to pay for a phone, just the fact that you can't have it right now. It's like, you kind of need to take a minute and be like, is this good for me anymore?
I think when these things are so ingrained in society, it's really hard to not form an addiction to it. Like social media, the internet, your phone, like you use your phone to communicate. You use social media to express yourself. You use the internet to look up information. I think you can form an addiction to those things because you need it to function in society. And then I think the addiction obviously forms beyond just functioning. And it like goes into just doom scrolling or not being able to be separated from your phone. I have several of my friends cannot part with their phone in another room. And that's concerning.
I may or may not be that same way.
Well, just to kind of like...
Really?
I'm just scared I'll lose it.
Okay, that's different though.
You've already lost it.
Go ahead.
Don't worry, little gup. But just to kind of like, I hear a lot of like addiction, bad, we need these things, but like, this is going to sound stupid, but I have a point. Like, we need food to live, right? Like, some people need exercise. Well, I mean, technically not for like 3 days, but nonetheless, like, there are things that like people do need to rely on that are healthy, right? Like, I think exercise, as long as you're not like literally overexerting yourself, is probably a I wouldn't even call it addiction. I don't think that's a fair framework.
More like a routine.
It's definitely a blurred
Sure.
line for sure.
But I guess I want to ask y'all, how do we blur that line? Like, let's just not being psychiatrists, not being psychologists, you know, what is the difference between like a healthy habit and an addiction?
I feel like it really comes with, you love working out, say you can't go to the gym on Monday. How is that Monday going to be? Are you going to be like mad that you can't go to the gym? Are you going to be really upset that you can't go to the gym? Is it going to be like that's going to be what your whole day is about, is just knowing that you can't do that? Then I'd say that's where it's an addiction. But if it's like yesterday, I wanted to go to the gym, had an awful stomach ache, was like, I'm not going to the gym. I feel sick. This isn't going to be good. And it was okay. And I feel like that's where it's that fine line. Like, you know, when like you see a kid in the store and their mom's like, no, you can't have that, and they have a tantrum. Like if you're having kind of like almost a tantrum, like that's where I would say like, okay, you might need to figure out a healthy balance with that, because that's not going good.
Well, and I think I actually like your definition of like it's something that you can't live without, with the caveat of like as long as you literally can't live without it. So like food wouldn't apply. But yeah, I think if you come to a point where like I need this and I don't feel like myself without it, as long as it's not like food, then I think that's clearly an addiction.
I think I would classify addiction as like having obsessive thoughts about something when you're not doing it. So like if you're not on your phone and you're like, oh God, I really want to be on my phone, or you're trying that challenge where I think, shout out Ted, in our class, our English class, he challenged us to not be on social media for an entire weekend. And I really struggled with that. I really did, because the first thing I do when I wake up is I open my phone and I go on TikTok. And I know that that's really bad, but that's the kind of thing, like it's things that you do without realizing that you're doing it. And then you're like, oh, this is actually an addiction. And then I would close out of the app and then I'd be like, no, but I really want to check what so-and-so is doing, and I really want to see like what's going on in the world right now. And then I'd start to kind of obsess about it, and it would ruin my day. And that's the kind of thing that I think you can classify addiction versus routine.
Well, I think there's also some justification. Like for me, almost everything I do either involves or is centered around technology. My career in politics is probably going to heavily involve social media and technology. So like, I think there's some level of justification, and we can say if it's good or bad or not. It's probably bad, but there are reasons to be like, oh, I need to check this. Like for example, for this right here, I interact with people who watch this podcast on my phone, and then like depending on what we're talking about, I might get a lot of notifications. So there are reasons, good or bad, of why you would be feeling the need to always be checking on your phone, as an example.
Yeah.
So
it's like if you want to put it into perspective, like you checking like notifications for the podcast versus like someone just binging an entire show at night.
Sure.
You can kind of think about it like, oh, I'm going to go eat dinner versus I'm going to eat dinner, then I'm going to also eat a bunch of food out of the cabinet because I can't. I'm just so stressed out, I'm going to keep eating. And it's like, that's where you can kind of see like the obsession with food. That's a little addictive. And it's like decide, if you're just like checking your email, doing this, doing that, that's not that harmful. But if it's like, if you're checking your email and then you're doing something else and then you're doing this and you're like getting mad at people when they're trying to pull you away from it, or you have other things you need to do, but you're like, no, I can't. Like, I have to do this.
that's crazy. What?
When it's not, it's like,
Yeah.
you kind of have to think about it like if you have a deadline, that's different. You're working on it. You're trying to do something to get there. You know what you need to do. But if you're just staring into your screen, you're just staying up late, just like eyes bloodshot, just like playing video games all night, and then you're skipping your
Looking at
classes to
YouTube.
go again. It's like, okay, well, that's where you gotta think about it. And it doesn't normally have to go from like normal straight to addiction, but normal, and then you can be like, this is getting a little obsessive.
Yeah.
So I guess then I would ask all of you, what do you hope to see with like solving addiction problems in the future going forward? Do you think like it needs to be addressed by our government? Do you think it needs to be like
No.
addressed by parents, like parenting? Or like then what would you do? Us, we're adults. I mean we sort of rely on our parents for the most part, but then in the coming years, I mean, probably not. Our parents aren't parenting us right now.
Yeah. I'll start. I don't trust the government to control my health, especially mental health, especially this government. I think
Personal opinion.
Yes, obviously. I think parents can play a role in that, but I think as us with adults, unironically connect with nature more. Like
Go touch grass.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I've fallen down a YouTube rabbit hole of creating aquariums. I am being so for real,
with it.
And it's the coolest thing ever. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. So find something that you are actually passionate about and connect with that more than just reading comments on YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'll take a slightly different approach, but it works in tandem with yours, I guess. I'd say rather than connecting with nature, connect with real people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe one of my future topics where I take y'all back to philosophical hell, we can talk about it, but my personal meaning to existence is just having meaningful connections with other people. Talking, and it could be a simple oh, how's your day been, or it can be the deepest, darkest things you talk about with your best friends. But nonetheless, the more connectivity you have with people, real connectivity, not necessarily on social media, the more you'll realize you don't have to be as isolated as you are. And it's when you're isolated in one way or another where you find yourself defaulting to coping mechanisms, which is what addictions are largely.
Mm-hmm.
So in whatever way you can, whatever way you're comfortable doing, be it a hobby, be it classmates, be it work, just try and interact with other people. You'd be surprised at how easy it is.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, asking for help is a really, really good way to stop an addiction, or to at least receive some help that's not just you and your willpower trying to solve this addiction. I know that there is Alcoholics Anonymous, you've got I don't know what the drug one is.
Narcotics Anonymous.
That's easy. Oh my gosh. I'm dumb. But yeah, AA and NA I think are all...
North America?
Okay.
Not applicable.
It's a good poll.
It's okay, Abby, it is called NA.
Thank you. So I think all of these things, there are programs out there for you, maybe not with social media, but instead maybe I don't know, therapy, or just talking to your friends, and maybe finding that connection. And now I know that I relate to a lot of you about my addiction to social media and addiction to my phone. And I think that being able to talk about it with people and knowing that you're not alone, kind of like what you were saying, Peyton, is really important.
No, I also feel like schools can really give a good insight. I want to say it was run by Think Tank over the Destination Arizona week. There was a little lecture called I don't know if it was called what, it was time management. And basically something they also touched on is a lot of the different apps that you can download that either put screen times on your phones, or they kind of when you're studying, it has a timer for when you can take a break. And I noticed when I would be studying for a while and I'd take a little brain break, if I would go on my phone, it took me so long to get back working. Even if I say I was on my phone for 10 minutes, it took me 20 minutes to actually start working again, because I was I don't want to do this. But if I went on a walk with my friend Michael, just down the mall, loop around, walk past Giddings, go back into the library, I was able to work a little bit faster because I didn't have to pull my brain away from something else, because we were just mindlessly talking about something stupid.
Well, and that's also physical activity increases brain
It does.
power, so.
Every time I play soccer, I'd have soccer practice, I'd get home and I'd lock in on my
Literally
homework.
Einstein.
No, literally, I was so smart. But yeah, I think physical activity. So if you're struggling to do homework or to focus on something related to school, obviously I'm talking to students right now, I think definitely do physical activity. Maybe try to study with a friend or somebody that'll bring you that human connection instead of just having those brain breaks on your phone, because I don't really think that they're brain breaks. I think that they're harming you because you're not able to get back into that work.
No, and it's difficult because I'll even my brain break would be Block Blast on my iPad. Very addictive. The best game ever, though. But I would do that, and I would have to limit it. I would be okay, I can play 3 rounds. And I would lose, and I'd be that doesn't count. And I'd have to be no, that does count as one of the rounds.
Yeah.
But even trying to do a mentally stimming kind of game, I still couldn't get back on to do it. I was just like, I kind of would rather play Block Blast than do my physio homework.
Yeah.
Real.
Do we want to go into closing comments, or do you guys have any other subtopics that you want to dive into?
I guess just one thing, like, what's one like lasting message we can leave with people, like, just in general, like, what should you do? What should you avoid? Something like that. I don't know. Whoever wants to take first stab at it. I know it's kind of broad.
Okay. I think the future of health is unknown and it's a little scary, but I think by talking about these issues like addiction, mental health, and also abortion, I think that we can maybe form a little bit more of a community and not feel so alone in these problems and concerns that we have. And I think that going forward, just to keep like an open mind about everything, try not to view things so much in the negative, like especially with social media and politics. And saying this, I'm actively trying not to view these things in the negative. But yeah, and I think also try to avoid misinformation online about health topics. Like if you have concerns, please go talk to a medical professional or a therapist or something like that, because you're not going to get that information from social media and have it be like fully accurate, catered to you.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of build off of that point, what I would leave you with is that resources are available, and resources includes things that you might not think about. So of course, as we mentioned in the beginning, we have, if you're a college student, I imagine, definitely at the U of A, but on many others, you have access to these kinds of healthcare options for you. And then people, as I mentioned, literally, anybody you could interact with could be considered a resource. But what I really mean by that is like an opportunity for you to be it talk about what you're going through, or maybe learn about what somebody else has done to get through their struggles. Mm-hmm. Just try to remember, and it's especially difficult when you are isolated. I have been there. I imagine all of us have been. But resources do exist, and you are not alone in this endeavor. You just have to take that eensy little step to go find them.
Yeah, I agree. Connect with real people, connect with the real world, and use the resources available to you.
Especially because it's always, our healthcare system, it's always going to change.
Yeah.
Take the step now if you want to get something done and you want to get help for it, because you don't know when that resource might not be available to you. So just if you think that something's an issue and you want to go speak to someone now. Like, why wait? Nothing's happening if you're waiting. So just try to get something, either just talk to a friend or actually talk to a provider of some mm-hmm. kind, but just take the step. That's the hardest thing to do, is taking that first step, and just take it.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
All right.
Okay,
well, next week, in keeping with the topic or the theme of the future, I believe we were possibly talking about the future of business.
Yes, I think so. I have to confirm with our guest, but I think we're going to be talking about the future of business.
And our dear grandfather will not be here.
I might not be here.
Might not
be here. But one thing that will be here is our event that will have passed by the time this gets uploaded should be on YouTube. Our panel discussion talking about education and AI with us three and three professors kind of discussing, what this massive technology is going to do to this mm-hmm. institution. But that'll be on YouTube. But until then, are we good to close?
I think so.
I think we are.
Well, I have been Peyton.
I've been Logan.
I've been Abby.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And we will see you in the next episode.
Thank you, guys.
Bye,
Goodbye.
guys.